Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games on this Michkov Monday. Joining me, as always, Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor. I don't have that much Michkov stuff, but it's good to get it out there right away. So people are like, oh, I got to stay for the Michkov then.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we'll get to that eventually.
It's good to be back in the studio, though.
It is. The remote shows were convenient, especially for me, as I was in bunk bed jail all last week. Bonk bed, some may have called it.
I like it.
But no, it's great to be back in the studio, and I can see Bryn. She can tell me when I'm fucking up. Like it's all good. You miss this place when you're not here that long. Zach Berman walked in today. It was just, everybody's back. This is great. Like last week, I guess probably a skeleton crew in here. It is nice to just be back amongst everyone here at PHLY.
It's also nice that I don't have to drive to New Jersey anymore.
Yeah. Well, so you're done until like rookie camp?
Well, until the Flyers do something crazy. Because, I mean, my assumption, that was literally how I left it with Kevin Kurz of The Athletic as we were walking out the last night. I was like, I'll see you in a few months. Like, or until the Flyers do something crazy. Because it would be very Flyers if, like, Michkov shows up next week and then they introduce them, something like that. Or they make some enormous trade out of nowhere. If not, the next time I have to be back is, like, the lead up to rookie camp because the veterans start showing up, a few weeks early. Obviously, that's a big thing that Torts pushes, and then you can interview players more easily if you want to. So usually I'll go a couple days to catch up with some of the guys, work on some future stories. But yeah, Saturday was the last day of development camp. I published my development camp in-depth wrap-up story. I've done this for years. I've always viewed it's less so now, I think, because the coverage group is younger and, to be blunt, more motivated than they were back then. But I remember back when I got started at Broad Street Hockey, I realized very quickly that the vast majority of the older beat writers gave zero shits about development camp. They just didn't care. They would show up for the first day, and they'd show up for the scrimmage, and then every other day they wouldn't show up. It just wasn't worth their time. It was the summer, and I came to the conclusion, like, if I want to separate my coverage, this is a way to do it because no one is there. And I can provide the type of videos and in-depth prospect evaluations that no one else is doing because no one else gives enough of a shit. So I just kind of kept doing it. And after every development camp, I do this in-depth story. I record tons of videos on my phone. I take notes. I go to every single session. And then I just kind of try to give people a good idea of how they all look. Now, obviously, development camp, you're not making any final decisions on a player. It's a teaching camp, but these guys are trying to impress the brass. And the brass is watching these guys to see what they have in them, especially the guys they just drafted. First time they're seeing them on their ice wearing Flyers orange and black. So it is valuable, and you learn a lot about who they are as players. And that's what this piece does. I go into, really, I kind of in-depth broke down about 8 guys, and then I did little quick hits on another 8. But we're going to get into this in a few minutes, some of my observations on the bigger players. But the meat of the article is on allphly.com. It is for diehards only, so check that out if you want to learn more, watch more. There's tons of video clips, quotes from we had quotes from Riley Armstrong, from Nick Schultz, from Sam Moran, from Brent Flair, quotes from the players. So it's a really in-depth piece, a piece I'm proud of doing every year. So check it out.
And I was like just listening to, yes, it's very difficult to, because of this dev camp, this is what I think this guy is going to be. But just tracking the progress, like you've seen a lot of these now.
Yes.
And like listening to Martinez and Meltzer on Flyers Daily today, they're like, it's hard to say, okay, this is what Denver Barkey's going to be. But I can tell you from last year's development camp to this year's, this is what I've seen is different. And like you having been to a bunch of them and being able to track that progress, you're able to draw on that a little bit.
I was actually really excited to see Denver Barkey this year because we didn't really get to see him last year at development camp. He got banged up early, if I remember correctly, and barely was on the ice. I actually don't know if he ever hit the ice. Chiernik was on the ice, got hurt, and then missed. But Barkey was a disappointment because I remember being really excited about that draft pick when they made it last year and really pumped to see him on the ice for dev camp. He didn't really participate in dev camp. This is his first development camp, and he was impressive.
So this is go to allphly.com, sign up to be a diehard, get all Charlie's videos, get the breakdown, the complete, the place to go for all development camp coverage, the final say, if you will. But right now I'm going to talk a little bit about Saturday's scrimmage and just your overall impressions of some of these guys. And it was funny. I mentioned listening to Flyers Daily earlier. They talked about Jett Luchanko. Signs at 17, won't be 18 till August 21st. Could very well be the youngest player that they've ever signed. Like, if anyone would know that, it's Meltzer. And like I can't come up with anyone.
Right.
But it's just kind of crazy to think, talking about when you started. Like, yeah, there's probably a lot of the beat reporters, the coverage left from a long time who'd been doing it a while. It's like draft picks, prospects. Oh, you mean trade pieces? you mean ammunition with names, like with names written on it. Like that's all this is, and it has changed a little bit as the game has changed. Luckily, you were kind of there, and got to start that from. Good old BroadStreetHockey.com. Let's start with that young man, Jett Luchanko, 17, leaves camp with an ELC in his pocket. When you sign at 17, like, do your parents have to be there?
I don't.
I don't think
is
that
so.
Illegal?
I guess.
Can you sign an employment contract? Like, if it doesn't kick in till you're 18?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
I don't
It's
know.
A good question.
I just
I don't know what the Canadian rules are.
You can't.
Because presumably he has to,
I guess
go under both
rules,
Canadian, right? He's a Canadian citizen.
Yeah.
So he's going under a work visa, I presume.
You can't rent a car till you're like 25. You can sign a contract to be employed with like Comcast Spectacor in the NHL. Whatever. Anyway, Jett Luchanko. We all have heard about his speed. The more we've looked into him, like the combine results, super impressive.
Sure.
You mentioned some things that really stuck out positively and negatively last week as we went through each day of development camp. What'd you see in the game and overall impressions of the 13th overall pick from 2024?
I thought he was really impressive in the scrimmage. I thought the scrimmage was the best he looked at camp. What you usually see with these guys at development camps, and I've been to enough to know that this is very much a thing, especially the guys who just got drafted and all the eyes are on them. They usually start slow at camps, at the development camp, because I think they're just a little nervous. It's a whirlwind week. They just got drafted. They hopped on a plane, fly to Voorhees, to Philadelphia first, and then go to Voorhees. And you just get the sense in the beginning they're a little overwhelmed. They're a little starstruck by it all. But as camp progressed, I thought Luchanko looked better and better. Like the skating, that popped right off the jump. He's an incredible skater. He was the best skater at this camp by far. I mean, guys like Gendron and J.R. Avon are very quick skaters, but no one had the skating ability, all-around skating ability.
It just, oh, shit.
Yes, that Luchanko has. But what I really liked in the scrimmage and what really showed in the scrimmage in a way that it just can't really show in drills and in practices is just the details of his game. You can see why the Flyers after the draft and presumably before the draft as well, why they were so adamant that he's a center, because he has those little details that make you think, yeah, he can stick in the middle. He thinks the game at a high level in terms of, you're always seeing him checking behind him to make sure no one's getting behind him. He settles in down low in the zone to provide support for his defenseman as an outlet on breakouts. There were some really slick little neutral zone passes where he was kind of able to facilitate his wingers getting up ice faster because he knew what he was going to do before he actually did it, even though he was under pressure in the neutral zone. There were just a lot of little things he did that made you think like, yeah, I don't know what his ceiling is, but the floor is very high because he does all of these things. And that popped in a way that it just can't pop in drills and in practice. And then you add in the skating, you add in the soft hands, the quick hands in close. He's good at finishing in close. And you can see why they're so high on him. Now, it wasn't perfect, and I mentioned this in the story, that I wasn't in love with his creative passing ability. The decision-making sometimes wasn't great. Sometimes he was forcing passes. And the one thing that like did jump out at me, especially in the drills, and it was the case in the scrimmage too, is that he needs to get better at protecting the puck. He gets the puck knocked away, not in terms of getting hit, but in terms of protecting it away from stick checks. He lost the puck a lot. And if that doesn't get fixed, it's going to limit his ceiling because he's not going to be able to take full advantage of the speed that he has and the finishing ability that he has if he can't get through the waves of defenders that allow you to get to those dangerous areas.
That just strikes me as something like it just needs to become more of a focus because he's been able to get by. Like if you have that type of speed, a defender is just going to be like, well, fuck this. I'm playing 2 stink lengths off of him, so he just doesn't burn me.
Yeah.
And then speed of the game difference, like, these dudes can skate. Yeah, like first round picks, whatever. Obviously, he still has the standout skating, but they're used to really fast dudes. And they'll just, I'm going to get up on him a little bit and see if I can neutralize his speed before he gets going. Whereas probably a lot of defensemen he's played in his life are like, I'm just not going to become part of this guy's highlight reel.
Yeah.
And so it just has to be more of a focus adjusting to what higher level competition is going to be. Might be tough, but you mentioned like Sean Couturier, who has become a pretty damn good power forward and has great hands around the net, or at least did before this prior season. Like it's just something that can be worked on.
Yeah. Yeah, it can. The big question you're going to have is, does he have the offensive creativity, the vision to take full advantage of his skill set? And that's something that I believe I noted it in my my pre-draft prospect preview video that I did on Jett Luchanko, is just that you don't know what the ceiling is because it's like, it's not even that he doesn't think the game at a high level, because he does. The details are there. The hockey IQ is there. The question is, does he have the offensive creativity to find the guy that no one else can see, but he can, to take the right route through the neutral zone so he doesn't end up just like running himself into the corner. But he can see that, like, well, if I make this little pivot or whatever, and he has the skating ability to do it, but if I make this little pivot, if I slow down and then speed up, I'll be able to get to an open area rather than just running myself into a puck battle. That's the question. And we're going to see over the next couple of years if he can. The exciting part about Luchanko, and you spoke to this a second ago, he's young. He's really young. And usually, not always, but usually, on average, the guys who are drafted young tend to have upside that like the older guys don't have. And that was a concern about, for example, Yakimchuk. Yakimchuk was an old player for his draft class. So the idea of like, yeah, he's the super high upside defenseman, and he might be. It was tempered a little bit by the fact that, like, well, he's old for his draft year. So maybe he's not the kind of high ceiling guy that people hoped he was going to be, whereas Luchanko is young for his draft year. So he's been playing against older players pretty much his whole life. Now he'll have almost an extra 8 or 9 months over a guy like Yakimchuk to further develop. Like,
you see the tools and like Yakimchuk might end up being a Norris guy. Who the hell knows? But you just see the tools and you go, well, if he puts this all together, and perhaps at a certain age you go like, well, he would have connected A, and maybe not A, B, and C, but like he would have connected A and C by now. And then we'll see if B comes like, whereas a guy who's almost a year younger, it's like, well, next year's really his big development year. Like that could technically be, he wouldn't even be super old for next year's draft. Yeah. He'd still be 18 when they draft him. All right. I have staked my claim to Hunter McDonald. He's officially #my guy. It sounded like he looked pretty good. In the scrimmage. Look at his smile. He is. Like, you're smitten.
No. Like I'm seriously considering just like making the new bit being that I believe in Hunter McDonald.
I believe in Hunter McDonald.
Hunter McDonald.
It would. That would be so fun for your brand, just to see what the analytics haters would have to say about you liking Hunter McDonald.
Yeah.
No, it would turn into your shill for the organization.
Oh, of course.
That's what it would
Of course,
be.
yes.
Danny and Jonesy love Hunter.
Right.
And if you start loving Hunter, well, fuck the analytics. We're not mad at you for being a nerd. We're mad at you for having orange glasses. That's what it would become.
Exactly.
It would be fun to see the switch, though.
I think what I can say about Hunter McDonald at this camp is that I now have a much better understanding as to why they like him as much as they do. Because the things that they like about him are extremely apparent. And also, and this is something that's in the piece, like the big thing with the concerns about Hunter McDonald is, and because you bring up the fact, well, he didn't score that much in college, and the obvious retort you get from his defenders are, well, he's a stay-at-home defenseman. He's a defensive defenseman. He doesn't have to score that much. And that's true. However, even the best defensive defenseman in the NHL scored a fair amount in lower levels. Like Chris Tanev, maybe the best defensive defenseman of the last few years, or like maybe probably the last like 6 or 7 years. I mean, top-tier guy who was a top-notch trade choice for Dallas at the deadline. He scored 28 points in 41 games in his 1 year in college. And then you have like Adam Pelech, another really good like defenseman shutdown guy. He was nearly a point per game in his final year in juniors. Like, no, their offense never translated, but they had some of it. Whereas Hunter McDonald had 2 goals in college and 20 points in 2 years. So that's the concern. And that's why the analytics people are always going to be skeptical of him. However, I will say that he showed more offensive ability at this camp definitely more than he showed in past step camps, but way more than I expected. He had one play, and I have the video up on the article, where he has a really good gap on Cole Knuble. This was, I believe, in the 4-on-4 portion of the third period. It's a really good gap on Cole Knuble. He breaks up the entry, knocks the puck down the ice, and then it's basically just them two chasing it on the puck. And Cole Knuble is not a great skater, but he's gotten better. He's quicker. He's a guy who, given his size and given the fact that he plays forward, you would expect him to be faster than Hunter McDonald. Hunter McDonald basically passes Cole Knuble, despite the fact that he started about a stride and a half behind him in the initial race. Then he just basically manhandles him and throws him to the side to get the puck. And then he sets up a quality chance for a teammate right in front of the net. It gets stopped, but the puck skills were there enough to create something. And you watch a play like that and you think to yourself, I mean, this is a guy who could score 20 points in an NHL season, maybe. He might have that ability. The skating, I won't go so far as Nick Schultz did in calling him an unbelievable skater, but he's fine. He's a fine skater, especially for someone who is 6'4".
Maybe Schultz meant it literally, like, I didn't believe he could skate this well. I find what I just saw unbelievable.
That's fair. That's very, very possible.
I
thought you were going to make a joke about Nick being like, well, maybe a comparison to him, but
I think of like the offensive upside thing and shutdown defensemen. Like, remember those 2 weeks where we were like, Braden Coburn's one-timer, man. Like, that was like a thing. And he did have 36-point season, and then the rest were like 20-ish or fewer. But like, I just don't need it that much if, especially, you're going to figure out a way to get him paired with a puck mover like an Andre or a Drysdale or whatever. But I am very excited about having a guy like this. When you mentioned the skating, I just think, like, when guys that size figure out how to take advantage of the power and length of their stride, they can become very, very strong skaters. And maybe that's just something he's figured out at a young age.
Yeah, the skating is good enough. I will say that. It's good enough. He's not slow, especially for his size. He's not slow. And you can see it when he's in rush coverage. Because as I mentioned in the article, like, being good at rush coverage, being good at denying entries and gap control, like, yes, part of that is defensive instincts and having long reach and things like that. But a lot of it's mobility. I mean, you can be 6'6" and have a super long reach and be great along the wall and have physical strength. But if you can't skate, you're going to get turnstile all the time.
You better figure out how to not cross over C-cut and drive a guy into the wall. Otherwise, he's getting by you, under you, or long way around you every time.
Exactly. And I will say that McDonald was great in rush coverage because he has the mobility to take full advantage of the size, of the defensive instincts, of the reach. And that was intriguing. So I come away from this camp feeling I'm still skeptical because, look, it's not necessarily the points. It's not like, well, Hunter McDonald has to score 15 points a year to be an NHL player. Yeah, you'd hope that he gets some cheapy secondary assists if he's creating some offense. But the big thing is that if you don't create offense at lower levels, it tends to imply that you're not doing essentially anything to get play moving in the right direction because you're not picking up any cheapy assists like, defensemen do if they're at least throwing a decent first pass out to the forward so they can go up ice. And the concern is like, yeah, Hunter McDonald might be a great defensive defenseman, might be great in his own zone. But if he's spending 80% of his shifts in the defensive zone, he's not going to be a good defenseman.
You're just going to you can be the best defenseman ever.
Yeah.
The other 4 guys, while you're stuck on defense, are probably not that.
Exactly.
You're going to just get scored on a lot.
So he has to, at the very least, provide something from a puck-moving ability, not be a total black hole up at the point in the offensive zone. He has to be able to, execute a pass half decently. Those, activate down low if he has to, if that's the way the cycle rolls. And I would say at this camp, he showed me that he might be able to do that. And that makes me feel better about his upside. I'm still skeptical because guys with his profile don't usually become NHLers. It's pretty rare. But after watching him for 4 days, I can see why they think he can be an exception. I get it.
All right, Charlie, about this next player, I just have to ask. All right, so Connor Bedard, Leo Carlson, Adam Fantilli, Will Smith, David Reinbacher, Dmitry Simashev, Matvei Michkov, Ryan Leonard, Nate Danielson, Dalibor Dvorsky.
Okay.
Over whom would you take Oliver Bonk over those guys?
Oh, yeah, because didn't Danny say that?
Said he'd be a top 10
pick. He'd be a top 10 pick. Yeah. I'm skeptical. Look.
He's just talking up his guy.
Danny is obviously trying to present his organization in the best light. I think he probably jumps Danielson, to be sure. Dvorsky, maybe. I don't think he jumps Simashev just because the idea is that his upside, his physical upside is through the roof. I think he jumps to the top 15.
Okay.
The top 10 is a bit of a stretch because you could certainly make the case that, like, well, Gabe Barreau killed it. Maybe he jumps up to the top 10 too because you have, 60 points in college as a freshman?
But he doesn't count because he wasn't on the Flyers board.
Well, yeah.
That's the problem. And I guess neither would be Will Smith. So
I would say,
in a redraft, you have to erase those 2 guys entirely.
That is fair. I would say that Bonk's stock is definitely up. I think saying that he would be a top 10 pick in a redraft is optimistic, not impossible, given the fact that teams reach on defensemen all the friggin' time, but it's optimistic.
It's optimistic, but if you just saw the number, and again, I don't know, but I doubt it, that he fell to 20, and in a year, not even when you do, 5 years later, let's look at the redraft and see who really translated the best, who developed well, but a year later, it's I don't know. But if you just look at the numbers, it's well, damn. Yeah, maybe. But Oliver Bonk, I heard some good. I heard some, he still needs to work on some things. What was your overall takeaway on Bonk Boy?
I thought, Wednesday, so this would have been the 3rd, the day before the 4th of July. I thought he was the best player on the ice. He was fantastic. Defensively, especially, you can tell he's made serious strides in terms of his play without the puck, defending 2-on-1s along the boards. He just looks steadier than he did last year. And that's exciting because as much as we've talked about him as he's this all-around two-way defenseman, his defensive game was in need of work. It was far from a finished product, and it does seem like he's just calmer. He knows what to do without the puck. When he's defending a 2-on-1, he knows that he's got to be defending the pass. And then he baits people into trying to make that pass and then deflects the pass. These are finer points of defensive play that, and in the Flyers, to the Flyers' credit, they thought he was going to get better at these things because they love the fact that he's in London in a great developmental program that pumps out NHL caliber players. So they were anticipating this, and it seems like they're getting not what they paid for, but what they drafted. They're getting that benefit. He did not look that great in the scrimmage. He had some moments. I have a couple videos of him making good defensive plays, transitioning defense to offense. The thing that you have to remember about the scrimmage, though, for anybody that went to the scrimmage, this was, I don't know if Danny lost a bet to Jonesy or something, because the way they did it was like Team Briere and Team Jones. And Team Jones was stacked, and Team Briere was like, you had Oliver Bonk and you had Carson Bjarnason, and then like all camp invites.
He got the goalie, and everyone else was on the other team.
Yeah. And Team White, the Jonesy team, just obliterated them. And it just seemed like Bonk was trying to do a lot because he didn't have a lot of help, and then was making more mistakes than he usually does. He was not great in the scrimmage, but I felt like in the drills and defensively on the whole, he had a good camp. I wouldn't say he had a great camp, but he looked fine.
I think we've talked a decent amount about Denver Barkey. And of course, read Charlie's Pete's, allphly.com, become a diehard to read it. But you talked about Alex Bump the other day, and it was the day my connection was shit, and I missed like 5 minutes of the show.
Right.
So I want to talk about him because I heard some good things, read some good things about Alex Bump at this camp. What did you see from him?
I thought he was the most impressive forward in the scrimmage. I put this in my piece that I don't think it's impossible to know this, like, unless I guess you had like tracking software at a fucking development camp scrimmage, which like maybe the Flyers did. I don't think there was a player who possessed the puck more and made more plays with the puck in that scrimmage than Bump. He was the engine. He was on a line in large part with Luchanko. They juggled the lines at times, so it wasn't like he was only with him. But as good as Luchanko looked, and he looked good, like Bump was the engine of that line. He was the guy driving the play. He was the play driver on the line. He's just a guy where it does seem like the Flyers might have gotten a steal in this guy. And I know the numbers in college in his freshman year weren't incredible. They weren't bad. They weren't incredible. But this is the third camp I've seen him at, and he's popped at each one. And he's only gotten better. I thought Brent Flair's comment after the scrimmage where he said he looks like an NHL player to me. I mean, that's as good of an endorsement as you're going to give to a 5th-round pick. They like him. And look, I'm not saying he's a top liner. I'm not saying that they've stumbled into, their big steal who's going to be a top of the lineup guy. But I watch him and I see a potential middle sixer. I think he has that ability. He has the creativity. He has the vision. He's got a really balanced offensive skill set. He's a guy I would definitely keep an eye on this year. I could see him having a big breakout at Jonesy's alma mater, Western Michigan.
Oh, geez. Yeah, the Harvard of
the Midwest. He used to love that one.
Before we go any further, I got to tell you about, it's a great setup because, my Lord, do some people on social media need to chill. Between work, social media, and the choices life throws our way, it's no wonder we're more worked up than ever. Coors Light celebrates rising above and choosing a chill mindset. Why not turn to rained out barbecue into a karaoke house party? Or after a tough loss, settle scores with an ice cold peace offering, making the choice to choose chill. Then reach for a Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment. Listen, man, there's lots of stuff going on right now. You just go on social media. It doesn't even have to necessarily be Flyers Twitter. Maybe you watch the news. There's probably plenty of things driving you absolutely insane. I know I'm fired up pretty much all the time. That's why sometimes I need to chill. And there's no better way to celebrate choosing, making that choice to just go, you know what, I'm good. Then with an ice-cold Coors Light. So whether you're freaking out about draft picks, free agency, trades, whatever it might be, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies. Because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is on fire, or maybe the world itself, sometimes you just gotta chill. Make the most of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at TrueMark Financial. I've been telling you about all the benefits of joining a credit union like TrueMark Financial for months now. But really, one thing I think people are worried about is like, man, I gotta change. I have so many things linked to my bank account and this and that. Well, switching from bank to credit union is super easy. That's something you really need to look into by going to truemark.com/PHLY, because a couple of the benefits, man, you take a look at the ownership structure. Banks, well, they're typically for-profit institutions owned by shareholders. They operate with the primary goal of generating profits for those shareholders. Whereas credit unions are not-for-profit financial co-ops owned by their members. If you live or work in Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, or Philadelphia counties, you're eligible to join. Member benefits include great rates, lower fees, and personalized service. So maybe I'm not thinking, I don't know, switching. That seems like a big pain. Think about some of these awesome benefits. Plus, the financial advice. I mentioned that personalized service. Advisors provide personalized financial planning and expertise for you. And you can learn about goal setting for long-term financial security, something I have benefited from just by having a few conversations with the good people over at TrueMark. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit truemark.com/PHLY. Just for the people who, I know we mentioned this last week, the super chatters, we love you. We are absolutely going to get to the super chats. We're doing super chats at the end of the show now because you guys, you have a lot of opinions. You have, honestly, the content's really good. That's why we spend so much time on the super chats. But people are going to start asking questions like, Bill, what did you do today? And if the entire show is super chats, I didn't do all that much, quite honestly. The listeners came up with the content.
Right.
So we need to protect Bill's job by getting through the shit I prepared, and then we'll answer your questions at the end of the show. But that pretty much wraps it up for a lot of the development camp stuff. Again, allphly.com. Read Charlie's article for a full breakdown of 26 guys or something that you talked about? How many dudes did you talk about? I think it was
8 in depth, 8 more quick hits, so about 16.
16. I knew it was a number that ended in 6.
Yeah, and Deborah Barkley also I thought was good in this camp.
Yeah.
So check him out. I did a full-on write-up with a lot of videos. Basically, the short of it, he comes as advertised. He is just as relentless of a player in game situations as you've been told he is, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
It sounds like he's going to be a really entertaining guy. We mentioned the Jett Luchanko ELC. There was obviously the Brink bridge deal got done a couple of weeks or a week or two.
Is it even a bridge deal?
I don't know. Just his second contract, whatever you want to call it.
It's more like a short.
Yeah, because last year this is his first year.
Yeah.
So it's really just I don't know. We need to look at you more.
Yeah, we need to know what you are.
Yeah. Egor Zamula gets a similar contract, 2-year deal, $1.7 million average annual value. They're keeping him around. He was a restricted free agent. They QO'd him. They work out this deal, $1.7 mil. Pretty nice little pay bump for our guy Zamula.
Good for him.
Played a lot last year. Had that nice little run on the power play at one point. You could do a lot worse as a 6'7" than Egor Zamula, I think. Down the line, just looking at what this defense is, if he's part of it, if he's an extra, whatever. I think he's a nice enough player. The thing I'm looking at right now, though, Charlie, first, capfriendly.com still exists.
Yeah.
It's still kicking.
It seems like it will be dying any day now, but for now, it's still alive.
It's still there. But I log on today just to see what the Flyers are up to. About $830K over the cap right now. How do they get cap compliant without LTIR? That's my question for you right now.
I don't know if there's an answer aside from they're going to use LTIR unless they make a trade. And when we spoke with Danny Briere on July 1st, he more or less said, I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but he basically said, if I haven't made a big trade in the next week or so, it's probably not going to happen. Well, that was a week ago. So doesn't seem like the big trade is coming. So at this point,
choose chill. Choose Coors Light.
Choose chill. At this point, it does seem like they're going to use LTIR. I guess the only possible way out of it, if they don't use LTIR, is, and I guess this is theoretically possible, even though I'm not expecting it, is if Ryan Johansson shows up for camp and says he's healthy. because then I guess what they could do is they could waive him and send him down and then use that to get below.
Yeah, and
But
he knows that that's what's going to happen.
I don't think he wants to play in the AHL.
I do not think Ryan Johansson at like 30 years old wants to be riding the bus. Like,
Exactly.
I just get that impression.
So unless they make a trade, whether it's trading away someone like Ristolainen, whether it's a hockey trade that has some money going out, it does appear that they are poised to be tapping in a long-term injury reserve, at least to start the year, and then we'll see how it plays out from there.
Just thinking about how they would go about this. Like, Ryan Johansson is just like, he ain't part of the plans. We're going to LTIR him. And I realize, like, on Cap Friendly, it's like, well, Ryan Ellis, Cap LTIR candidate. Would they not put him on right away? Or if they're going to do it, might as well do it. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, and they could theoretically put him on long-term injured reserve in the offseason too.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do that. They didn't really want to because the only real reason to do that is the whole you can only exceed the cap ceiling by 10% in the offseason, but they're not close to that anyway, so it's no big deal. I think the key is just that they're going to wait until the last possible second to put him on LTIR because they don't want to use LTIR. They're hoping against hope, apparently, that something is going to pop up that's going to allow them to avoid it, whether it's some GM who rejected a Danny Briere trade offer, wakes up in the morning and decides, I want that player that you offered me, and then does the deal. You never know. It doesn't seem like anything is imminent at the moment, but it could happen. You never know. Sometimes there's happened in the offseason where general managers have a change of heart or their previous plan fell through, so they go back to plan B or plan C. You never know. But again, the fact that nothing has happened yet, it does cut down on the likelihood that something is going to happen, at least something substantial.
All right, with the Zamula contract signed as well, I think we can take a look at how we think this defense is going to shake out and maybe what the plan is going to be. A lot of it would, depend on the Risto health. But let's just, for the sake of this conversation, pencil Risto in as, yes, he was hurt for the second half of last year, but in October, he will be on the right side in one of the three spots on defense. So let's just look at this right now. Top pair, you have to believe, York Sanheim reunited. Seems like something they would want to do. Both had very good seasons last year, and they're the two best defensemen on this team, so it makes sense. After that, we get a little sticky. And, defense pairs can change. You mix and match. It's going to be a whole season. They have a lot of guys who might be in the fold at some point. But Sealer-Drysdale. Nick Sealer signed the 4-year deal, extension right around the deadline. They like Nick Sealer a lot. He looked really good last season. Mm-hmm. Jamie Drysdale, we'll see.
Jamie Drysdale didn't.
These two together, theoretically, it's like this makes sense. And then when they did get out there together, it was like a game, maybe two.
It was that Montreal game.
Yeah, it was really that Montreal
right?
game.
Yeah.
It was a fucking disaster.
Yeah, it was dumpster fire.
They were like -5.
Yeah, it was rough.
And
they really weren't that bad in the other games together, but that one, they were so bad.
It
just colors our vision
disaster,
of the pair.
But these two, you got to believe, are going to get the ice time. They make sense together. And then you look at, I guess Zamula, Risto, sure.
Yeah.
That's a third pair if I ever heard of one. But then Eric Johnson, we know they re-signed. Ronnie Attard, not waiver exempt, so he's going to be on this team in some fashion, you got to believe. Yeah. Maybe they try to sneak him through.
Maybe.
He'd probably get through.
I think he probably gets through, but it's a risk. It could happen.
It is a risk. They don't like these risks. Felix Sandstrom is not good, and they held on to him through the middle of December last year.
It's a really good point.
They were terrified that we just don't want to lose someone for nothing.
Yeah.
Now maybe they just get down to this numbers game and they're like, yes, we're already over the cap. I don't know. But Ronnie Attard, then there's Adam Ginning, who is waiver exempt. There's Emil Andre. There's Hunter McDonald, who we think is probably going to get a game, but maybe it's more down the line.
Could be in the mix at camp.
Could be in the mix.
But he has to have a really good camp.
They love him so much, he's going to get a look.
Yeah, he'll get a look. Yeah,
and then LJ Grans, who is also waivers exempt.
And Briere's praised him a few times.
They've brought him up more than expected, considering he was just a guy last year.
Yeah.
He was Belpedio comes up, Mete comes up, Jennings and Adder both eventually come up. It's like, all right. Like Andre made the team out of camp. Yeah. It's like, okay, Helge Grand's probably not in the mix, but his name has been mentioned.
They've mentioned him. He was banged up a little bit.
Yeah.
But they've mentioned him a few times, so he's theoretically in the camp mix. I think you kind of nailed it with your proposed mix. I think Sanheim York is probably your first pair. I think they're going to give the Sealer Drysdale pair a long look. They're hoping, because I mean, really, if you compare this decor, the projected decor, to the one they iced most of last year, especially during the good parts of last year, the big difference is the lack of Sean Walker.
Drysdale in for Walker.
So what they are banking on, I mean, because look, they know they're not competing for a cup, but all things being equal, I think they'd like to be competitive. And the big thing that's going to be a question mark going into next year from a defense standpoint is, can Jamie Drysdale be somewhat close to what Walker was? And that's not going to be easy because Walker was damn good.
They got a first-round pick for Sean Walker.
Yeah.
Like, he's very good.
Yeah, he's a good defenseman. And Drysdale last year was very much not a good NHL defenseman. So he's going to need to take a pretty gigantic step forward to even, closely approximate what Walker provided. I think Drysdale is more physically gifted by a lot than Sean Walker, but he's younger. The development of his career maybe hasn't quite gone according to, not plan, but the Flyers think he wasn't developed quite right. They think he's a little bit of a reclamation project they need to fix. I trust Brad Shaw, but might not happen overnight. They might not be able to fix Jamie Drysdale within, a month of camp or even a season. It might take multiple seasons before he starts turning into the guy they think he can be, if he does at all. So that's the question on the second pair. The third pair, Zamula, I believe, will have the leg up to be in the lineup, but, and I think this is important, I don't think Zamula is locked in. I think Zamula will enter camp the favorite to make the team and be in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
But if he underwhelms, and if Jennings outplays him, if Hunter McDonald outplays him, if Ronnie Attard outplays him, it wouldn't blow me away if Zamula starts the year out either on the bench, or it wouldn't even blow me away if he got waived. I mean, I don't think they want to do it, but if he flops in camp, he didn't play well enough last year to be like, you're a lock to make this team. He needs to play well in camp to keep the other prospects behind him. Right now, he's ahead of them.
Especially
he played 60-plus games. He had moments. He showed he can at least hold his own at the NHL level, but he's got guys coming for his job, and he's not a Cam York or a Jamie Drysdale where he's a locked-in part of the future. He's there, and he's fine, but he could lose a spot.
And like that gets to what I've talked about so much with what I want to see out of this defense. Like, yeah, I want Ronnie Attard to make it and be up here, and if he plays, he plays. We'll figure it out. But like the guys who are waiver exempt, I want to see some rotation here. Like, I want to see some guys playing. I don't want it to be a locked 6 dudes. This is who we're going with, because what's the point of that? If we're not competing for the Stanley Cup, like none of these guys are very good outside of like 3. Maybe, like I want to see everyone play and see who can stick and see who can really impress. And Egor Zamula, listen, I think if he's going to be a part of this thing, it's as a 6-7. That means I have no attachment to him. Oh, he's a part of this. He's a black ace, like that's cool, good. Like as an undrafted dude, that's all well and good. You got something for nothing, but he's not that important that we can't see these other guys play over him, especially guys with higher upsides. Yeah. Egor Zamula is basically what he's going to be.
Well, they think he could be more.
There might be another, but
he could jump.
He could.
It's possible.
I'd be surprised.
We'll see.
But I just think some of these other guys have a lot more than they have been given the opportunity to show. And Zamula pretty much was what he was last year, and it's fine, but it's not changing the team.
I just think that they are going to make him earn it. He is not going to be promised anything. He's got to give.
That's great.
He's making more money. He's making $1.7 million, so he's going to have a leg up on those guys that are still on sub $1 million a year contracts or whatever. But I just don't think he's a lock. And a couple of our commenters mentioned that there's the Michkov factor. That's true. they're going to want to have some Russians around to ease the transition. That also helps him out in terms of keeping his spot. But there's still Fedotov. Zamula is interesting because Zamula obviously knows Russian, but also can speak English.
And he's been here.
Yeah, whereas Fedotov is more of just a straight, he barely can speak English.
And Fedotov...
Zamula could be something of a translator.
And just... Fedotov got his little cup of coffee, but he joined this organization in March. Zamula's been here a while.
Yeah.
He can't not just talk to him, have conversations, but he can talk to him about what's expected, where things are.
Yeah.
If Fedotov gonna be figuring shit out around town too. Hey man, where can I get a fucking cup of coffee around here? Igor Zamula will have the answers to those questions as well. And that's why I'm all good with keeping him around. He should be in the mix. I don't know how good any of these dudes are. I don't know how good Jamie Drysdale is, let alone some of these guys. I do want, because I have been iffy on what I think Jamie Drysdale is ultimately going to be. I do want to point out that he was a 2020 draft pick, and we all know what the year 2020 was. He plays 24 games in that weird 2020-21 season. Not only his development was bad, but the timing of everything is so fucking whacked for everyone, let alone a child at 17, 18, 19 years old. Finally, when he did play a full normal season, 81 games, 32 points, he scored. He did what he was supposed to do in that year. The next year he gets hurt. And then following that, the weird training camp and the negotiations with Pat Verbeek and then ultimately traded. He has been on a weird track. So even if I'm oh yeah, I don't know if I see number one in Jamie Drysdale, first pair. I don't know if I see this. If anyone is it's just going to take a little longer, you look at this dude's path and go, yeah, there just needs to be some work done because he missed 3 years of development.
Yeah.
It's very, very clear. Even if you don't want to blame the Ducks, just blame time and time and space.
Yeah.
So I do want to, I know I've been down on Drysdale a little bit, but I cannot deny they're right. He wasn't developed properly, even through no fault of the Ducks, just the way of the world at the time. I do think that bears mentioning again.
Well, it remains to be seen what they can get out of him. They believe they could have an impact level talent if they develop him the way that they feel he should be developed. And I don't think it's going to be a snap your fingers and immediately he's a top pair defenseman. I think it's going to take time. I do believe they have the right person to do it in Brad Shaw. And I think that should, if he could turn Rasmus Ristolainen into a play-driving defensive defenseman out of whatever the hell he was before that, I'm
a guy.
I tend to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I think Jamie Drysdale has a lot more things going for him in terms of raw skill set than Ristolainen ever did. So I'm intrigued, but it's not a foregone conclusion. No. And there's also the injury concerns. There's concerns. Will he be able to hold up? Will he be able to play long enough stretches to really take full advantage of the tutelage of a Brad Shaw? All this remains to be seen, but the way I'm looking at it is your top four pretty much locked in. Risto, you're hoping comes back from the surgery fine and plays, and then maybe they can move him. Then maybe they can move him. Adert is interesting because, as you mentioned, he's no longer waiver exempt. I almost wonder if they tap into long-term injury reserve, I almost wonder if that makes it more likely that Adert stays, because if they're trying to stay under the cap ceiling to not tap in LTIR,
having an extra
guy doesn't make a lot of sense. But if they're already tapping into it, then it's we might as well just keep him because we've got $6.25 million on long-term injury reserve anyway. It's not going to hurt us any worse to keep Adert too, and we will not take the risk, the 10% chance that somebody picks up a 6'3", decent skating right shot defenseman and takes a stab at him on their team for the year off of waivers. That might be the best thing for him. The only concern about that, in terms of the way they will look at it, is does he make the team if he's not playing every night? They might look at it as we'd rather take the risk on losing him because we don't think it's going to happen. Could happen, we don't think, and have him play the first 30 games of the AHL season and then call him up when someone gets hurt, see what he's got. But I don't know how they're gonna play with the Adder situation. It literally might be you need to have a great camp. And if you have a great camp, we'll find a way to keep you. And if you don't, well, we'll take the risk. It might be that simple.
That's listen, I'm gonna see Ronnie Adder play and everything. he's going to turn 26 in season, end of the season, March 20th. But like, he ain't young. He's older than a lot of guys on this team right now. It's not as if he's going to be some in-demand dude.
Yeah, and he was a double redraft guy. He got passed over twice, so he was drafted late, and then he's had a longer developmental like runway. So yeah, he's older. This is his time. Like just how last year was Zamula's time. It was like if Zamula doesn't do it this year, it's over. If Adder doesn't do it this year, it's over.
Yeah. All right. I mentioned it's Michkov Monday at the top, and honestly, that was just to make sure, we have Michkov's name mentioned at some point. But no, I do want to talk about like potential line mates, because I saw a lot of like logjam talk on Twitter, like where are dudes kind of going to fit in? What's this top 9? And I got to tell you,
I don't think there's really a logjam.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Right now, they have 14 forwards, and that includes Ryan Johansson and Nick Delorier.
Yeah.
Now, yes, Nick Delorier 2 years ago played 80 games. Oh, shit. Nick Delorier is penciled into this lineup. He played 60 games this past season, Charlie. He played 8 of the final 22 games. I got to believe that's the coach recognizing, this isn't really worth it to anyone, especially considering they're not tanking. Like, they want to put out the best 12 guys. That means your fourth line is Cates, Poehling, and Hathaway. Now, I know that the coach loves Ryan Poehling, and at some points in this season, he was the 1C. But as long as Couturier is some semblance of what he was for the first half of the year, as long as Morgan Frost is not chained to the doghouse.
There's a lot of possible torts. Like Bobby Brink could get scratched a fair amount.
Absolutely.
I'm fully expecting there to be at least one game where everyone loses their minds because Michkov gets scratched.
Oh my God.
Fully expecting it. Like I'm preparing myself. It's going to take me the full 2 months left of the offseason to prepare myself mentally for the shit show that Twitter will be.
Choose chill,
but
babe.
Like it's going to happen.
Choose chill.
Because it's just torts.
But I think it's very obvious that, and like, again, I like to put in the notes app on my phone and screw around what the lines could be. These are not lines. Just in terms of what your top 9 is. Farabee, Couturier, Konechny, Forster, Frost, Michkov, Brink, Laughton, Tippett. Like, that is a very clear top 9 to me.
Yeah, I agree.
And they don't have, like, anyone else. I guess if we just love Poehling, we need to bump him up. Frost, guess what? We hate you. But, like, it's so obvious what this lineup is going to be. Taking the torts factor out of it, which you can never do, I just don't really see. I don't see a way for them to be like, Poehling is one of our top 3 centers.
I think he'll get some time up there. They'll shuffle it around.
Listen, people are going to get hurt.
If he's pushing out Laughton, if Laughton struggles, sure, I get it.
Oh, if you want to sub out Laughton and Poehling and make those 2 interchangeable, you never know. Like, Laughton could be traded as soon as this show ends. We have no idea. We'll talk about that in a second. There's a few minutes left. But, like, I just don't see any possibility. Like you said, there's a chance Brink gets scratched a decent amount.
Well, I mean, if there's games where they want to get Delorier in, because they're going to play. Like Delorier is not just
play.
He's going to play. He's going to play, especially when there's games where the other team has a heavyweight.
If they are up against Ryan Reeves or Matt Rempe or one of these dudes, he's going to play.
Yeah, and you got to move somebody out.
I just named 2 guys.
Yeah,
there's a few.
Yeah, I mean, Cates maybe. If Farabee stays in his doghouse, maybe he sits sometimes. Like there are guys they can sit. I don't think they particularly want to sit a guy like Hathaway. They love him. Obviously, they signed him to that extension. Torts loves Ryan Poehling.
Still really surprised me.
It wouldn't be a John Tortorella Flyer season if Morgan Frost didn't get scratched at least a couple times. Like, let's be honest here. It's going to happen. It's just what he does.
Incredible.
It's just torts. So I think they'll figure it out. But no, I think the chatter I saw on Twitter today was mostly about the idea that, well, like Joel Farabee won't be in the top 6. But while that might be true at times, I think a lot of it's just going to depend on who's going, who's hot, who's scoring at that point. And I do think a lot of that chatter is, it's not that there isn't some truth to it, to the fear that like, well, what if Farabee and Torts are just on the outs and then Farabee's value tanks because he ends up spending the whole year on third line. But I do think a lot of it is driven by the bias of people on Twitter that just want trades to happen.
Yeah.
And they're trying to speak a Joel Farabee trade into existence by saying that, well, he's going to be on the third line. You got to trade him now or else his value is going to go down. And I don't even think they necessarily even fully believe it. It's just that they want a trade to happen.
I just like labeling any of whoever is playing with Konechny is the de facto top line.
I mean, for now, until Michkov
shows himself to be what we think he can be, but like I'm not expecting that, especially for like the first 30 games.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Like I'm not expecting Michkov to be what he's going to be in 2 years right away. If he is, fucking awesome.
That'd be cool.
So get me the tattoo now. Like let's Stanley Cup tattoo. But like I'm slowing down with my early season expectations for him. And maybe they figure out a way to play those two together. You know, it wouldn't be crazy to play Konechny and Michkov together.
Konechny's played the left side before.
He has. I'm not like Michkov. He's a lefty, right? He shoots lefty.
Yeah,
but in Russia, you play a lot of opposite side, in which I am all for because I think playing your offside gives you the best chance to shoot the puck into the net, and that's fun. But like, if Tippett is your first line left wing, and that knocks Farabee down, like I don't know. Farabee, Couturier, Konechny, is that much better than Forster with Laughton and Tippett? Like, tell me which one of these is a first or a third line. I just don't see a top two. I don't think you have a top six. I think you have a top nine, and it's a bunch of dudes who are basically all the same. And then you have Kate's Paling Hathaway to beat the shit out of teams. Like, that's kind of what this is. Yeah. But who do you think is the best possible fit to play with Michkov right away? To me, it's Forster and Frost.
That's what I lean to. I really like the idea of Michkov and Forster on the same line because I like the size that Forster would bring. We know Forster can play the left side because he played a lot of it last year, even though he's a natural righty. So you can keep Michkov on his preferred right side as he's, getting his feet wet at the NHL level. I'm sure at some point down the road, they'll have Michkov play some left side. I don't want that to be the first thing they do.
Learn one thing.
Yeah, let's make it as easy for him as possible as he's getting adapted to the North American game. But there's no reason why he can't at some point play the left too. He can bounce around. That's just the way an NHL lineup works. I like the idea of Forster with Michkov. I really dig that. Then it's just really a matter of whether it's Couturier or Frost. And in theory, I like the playmaking potential of Frost setting up Michkov. Michkov, as I've said on the show before, he's got great puck skills. He's a wizard with the puck. He can pass. But more than anything, he wants to score goals. And more than anything, Morgan Frost wants to set up goals. Scoring a goal is like his last resort. He wants to pass the puck to someone in a dangerous area. That could be a potentially deadly combination. And it also could serve the benefit of making Morgan Frost look a lot better than we thought he was. So I want to try that. Do I think it's possible that we find out that Michkov works much better with Sean Couturier because Sean Couturier thinks the game at such a high level, because he brings the size that Frost doesn't have, because he's a play driver who can give Michkov more opportunities in the offensive zone? Maybe. That legitimately could be the way it plays out. But the upside potential of Frost-Michkov excites me more right now, in theory, than the upside potential of Couturier-Michkov in the middle of July.
That's... Got a long way to go, Chuck.
Got a long way to go.
We got some time. And before we wrap up today's show, there's one more thing I want to bring up quickly. But first, we got to talk about our daily presenting sponsor. That's right. Each and every day, we're brought to you by Mortgage CS. I'm going to pass along a little message for you from Mortgage CS. Yes, rates, they're slightly higher, but home prices, they're still rising. Mortgage CS can help you get into a home before they go even higher, and also help you refinance to save money when rates drop. Who doesn't love that idea? The same house, but with a lower payment. We all know about interest rates right now, but the thing is, if you're in the market for a home, home values are elevated and expected to keep rising. So it might not make sense for you to keep waiting for interest rates to drop to buy before you buy a home when the price of houses just keeps on going up. Plus, Mortgage CS can monitor your refinance opportunities and will ensure you save money responsibly when the rates do drop. Refinancing with Mortgage CS is straightforward. You don't want to pay a ton of fees when you refinance, and you'll never get that at Mortgage CS. In the end, you'll be so happy you texted Ben, and you'll find out for yourself the reason people win more with Mortgage CS. So call or text the CEO of Mortgage CS right now, Ben at 267-391-7425. You can see for yourself. You can also go to mortgagecs.com/PHLY to check them out or view their 350 plus perfect 5-star reviews. All you got to do, search Mortgage CS right now. Open up another window in your browser. Search Mortgage CS. Look at the Google reviews. 5 stars across the board. Read them. They're real and they're spectacular. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information. All right, Charlie. Right. Before we move on, I got to tell you about becoming a diehard. We've been talking about it all show, but there's so many benefits. Yes, you get the outstanding content provided by Charlie O'Connor, all of it. AllPHLY.com, become a diehard. But there's so much more. You get our full roster of amazing writers and reporters. You get access to the PHLY Lounge, the Discord, where you can harass Charlie nonstop. He actually hangs out in there and will answer your ridiculous questions, no matter how silly they may be. Actually, the Discord, pretty good. It is a pretty good discourse in the Discord. It is. Not nearly as insane as some social media outlets. So maybe you want to be not driven insane for the next couple of months by social media. Well, the best place to continue to get to talk Flyers with some fans is in our Discord. You also get a discount on merch like our Michkov Mania shirt. That's right, Michkov Mania running wild, and we want you to go to PHLYlocker.com right now and order yours while supplies last. Everyone loves Matvei Michkov. It is the point of this upcoming season. It's Michkov Mania. Well, guess what? You can wear the shirt and support us at the same time. Get the shirt before people on social media decide they actually hate Michkov. It'll only take a few weeks. Yeah, that's it. Believe me. But you can get that shirt there, and you get a free shirt when you sign up to be a diehard. Get 2 birds stoned at once. Get the Michkov Mania shirt. Sign up to be a diehard. All right. We got super chats. Oh, yeah, super chats. Let's do that. Super chats. Because we can do this anytime. So we have 3 super chats. I'll start with our boy Gary B. Charlie, how did Noah Powell look in camp? There's been a lot of talk about Noah Powell, the story of him being hard of hearing. Yes. He met with a student athlete from Snyder Hockey, also suffering from hearing loss. Kid is an awesome story. How's this game? I was impressed by Noah Powell. The way I described him in my article, because he was one of the 8 players that I highlighted in depth with videos and whatnot. He's just noticeable. Like, he's always doing things to make you stand up and notice that he's on the ice, that he's in the middle of a rep. You can see the power forward potential. You can see the fact that he has legitimate puck skills. He almost nailed a Forsberg in the scrimmage. It got stopped. I saw it was a good save. But like he's got the creativity and he's got the dangles and he's going to try out some fun things. He also, what I really like about him too, he goes to the high danger areas. Like, he's going for the slot, he's going for the net front, he's mixing it up in front. And his shot, it's got some velocity. It's got some zip to it. The one thing that I did notice that I think he needs to work a lot on, like, he was approaching Hartnell down levels of falling. He was falling a lot. Oh, I love it. And you watch him skate, and like, it's not that he's slow. He's not fast, but he's not slow. There were guys at this camp that were slow. Cough, cough, Jack Berglund. But I wouldn't say that he was slow. It's that he doesn't look that strong on his skates. And if he's going to play a power forward style, he's got to look more stable so that he's not just easily getting knocked over when he goes to the dangerous areas. I think he can work on it. I think hopefully as his lower body gets stronger, maybe works with the skating coach, he can improve that. But that was the big red flag I saw. But everything else, no, he looks like a really good 5th round pick. No, and I had to laugh because you're like, well, if he wants to play power forward, and it's like one of the best we had in the last 15 years. But like, he won battles and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he didn't get knocked down that way. He was just a goof and would fall down, like, for no reason.
Yep.
Like, away from the play.
Yep.
Like, that's what made Hartnell funny. It's like, it's not like he got knocked down. He just slipped. But, yeah, so there's a little bit of a difference there. All right, the next super chat from Big Juicy Germ.
Big Juicy Germ.
Sawyer Bolton go boom. I love this kid.
So Sawyer Bolton was...
An invitee?
So sort of. He was signed, actually, I think it was like right at the start of camp. He was signed to an AHL-only Phantoms contract. He's more of like a physical goon type.
Beautiful.
He was noticeable at times at camp. Sure. You know what? Like, one thing I will say, I'm not expecting Sawyer Bolton to be even probably not an AHL player. But as you can attest, and we have something up here, AHL fighter goon types,
legends.
They get people into hockey. And if that's what Sawyer Bolton is going to be for the Phantoms this year, I love it.
I was 8 years old when I saw Frank Bialowas play. Never looked back.
I love
That's my kind of hockey.
I love it.
Love it, Sawyer. Oh, we got to check out
maybe
some
he's
Sawyer
more
Bolton.
than that. You never know.
We got to check out some Sawyer Bolton soon.
We'll see.
And the last super chat of the day from JH. What does Bill think about STG claiming Michkov mania and by extension Hulkamania? Good for them, man.
Yeah,
I guess cool. Like,
cool.
You know,
we're not trying to start fights here.
Yeah, good for them. They apparently put the shirt out a while ago. I've never listened to their show. I don't follow any of them, so it would be pretty difficult for me to steal that. Also, I can show you the super. Like, my idea for the Michkov Mania shirt was totally different. A Russian flag ripping like Hulk Hogan's shirt and Michkov, like the Michkov silhouette like we have on the Mad Russian shirt emerging from that. That's like, one, a lot of work, and two, I don't know if we want to like put out a shirt with the Russian flag like being ripped. Like, that seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough given the invasion.
The whole thing.
They're
having their flag,
justifiably not exactly very popular as a country right now. Just having their flag
on the shirt, maybe not the best idea. Ripping it, maybe not the best idea. I don't know. I was just spitballing one night. Might have been participating in some extracurriculars. And the design we came up with, I very much doubt our Denver-based merch guy was trying to steal from some other podcast in Philly. Yeah. Coincidence, Hulkamania, both I and members of their show around the same age grew up liking wrestling.
Yeah.
And Hulkamania, the biggest fucking thing there's ever been. So draw your own conclusions from there.
Yeah, we're not here to start fights.
I don't care.
But yeah,
buy it from us, buy it from them. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Well,
Michkov Mania is running wild.
No, buy it from us.
Yeah, buy it from us. But Michkov Mania is running wild either way. All right, so that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. I like that they paid to ask that question because there's no way I'd ever address it if they didn't. But it's a super chat, so I'll give you the answer. I'll show you the fucking DMs with Eric, our merch guy. Like, anyway, that's all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you very much to our presenting sponsor, Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY. Start your home buying process today. You know where to find us. Subscribe right here on the YouTube page. Set those reminders. Never miss a live show. We'll be back all week at 1 o'clock. Back where we belong, baby, at that 1 o'clock time slot. Now the development camp's over. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. And follow the podcast, PHLY Flyers, wherever you get those. Boom. Subscribe both ways. Listen everywhere. Pump up our numbers. All right. That's it. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. You stay loose and sexy, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.